commonly referred to. And I will be working some equations for you, and you can follow along. You can write them down and work them with me, or you can just watch and listen. I'm gonna also be using the stamp game to help me show you what's going on and why we're doing what we're doing. Now, we're on quarantine, of course, so I don't have my actual stamp game with me, but I did print off for free, and you can do the same thing too. If you want your own copy of the Montessori Stamp Game, there are some PDFs available online to print and download for free. So we've got our units, which are green. My printer is out of ink, so they are multicolored today. Blue 10s, and red for our 100s. Now, remember that 10 units equals 1 blue 10. And 10 blue 10s equals 1 red 100. If we had 10 100s, it would equal a green 1000. But we are not going up that high today. We will only be working in hundreds, tens, and units. However, dynamic subtraction works the same. You just keep going up through each place value. Now, of course, every single time, always, we start with our units. The only time that we won't start with our units is when we are dividing later. All right, we're gonna first start with this equation. 123 minus 62. Now, the problem with subtraction is that it's not commutative. So we can't switch a bigger number for a smaller number like we can in addition. We won't get the same answer. We have to subtract the bottom from the top. So we're gonna start with our units. Let's look here. 3 minus 2. Oh, we can subtract 2 from 3. That's easy. 3 minus 2 equals 1. Okay. Now we can go to our tens place. We have 2 minus 6. Uh-oh. If we have 2 cupcakes, can we eat 6 of them? Nope, we can't. But what if we were having a party or a sleepover and there were 6 kids at the house and we all wanted a cupcake, but we only had 2? We would have to go get more. So what I'm gonna do is build it with our stamp game so you can see what's happening. Okay, so we have 1 unit left. We took 2 from 3. We have 2 in our tens place, and we have 1 in our hundreds place. Okay. Now, traditionally, the Montessori Stamp Game is presented going down in a straight row. However, I present to my students, and you can do it either way that makes better sense to you, to go in 2 rows of 5, because you can make a 10 frame when you've gotten to 10, and it helps it be easier to see how many you have without having to recount, just to kind of recognize when we hit that magic number of 10. Okay, so we only have 2. We can't eat 6 cupcakes, so Mom's gonna go to the store and she's gonna get more cupcakes. All right. So we're gonna borrow from our 100. Now we only have 1 in our hundreds place, so we have to take the whole thing. What I'm gonna do is take this and put it back, and I'm gonna trade it for 10 tens, because 10 tens equals 100. And this is the 10 frame that I'm talking about. So when you make your 10, you can clearly see that we have 10 and 2 more, which is 12. So now we have 0 hundreds, 12 tens, and our 1 unit that we already figured out. Now normally we couldn't have more than 9 in a place value, but if we're just borrowing, it's not going to stay there as part of our answer, so it's okay to have it and use it for just a minute. And what that looks like on our paper, what we just did, we borrowed our 100, and now we have 0 hundreds left. We used our only 100. And we changed from 2 tens into 12 tens. So I like to mark it off and write it on there because I like to write down everything when I do math. Some people are really, really good at doing it in their heads, but I recommend, at least when you start out, to use your scratch paper and to write it down. Okay, so now that we have 12 tens, we can take away the 6 cupcakes. So now we have a whole dozen cupcakes. We have 12. Now we can eat 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so we have 6 cupcakes left. So our answer is 61. And this is what it looks like with the stamps, 61. Okay, notice that I did not write a 0 here, even though we have 0 hundreds. We know in our highest place value that there is an imaginary 0 there, but we don't have any use to write it. We only write our zeros if it is in a lower place value. Now, if it confuses you not having a number in your equation, you can make a little dotted line 0 to help you remember that that's actually a 0. Sometimes it throws people off. Okay, now I'm gonna put these back and we're gonna do the next one, and I'm gonna build it again for you. So we have 529 minus 136. Because it's subtraction, we'll only build our first number that we're subtracting from. So I'm gonna build 1, 2, 3, 4, 500. I need 2 tens, which is 20. And we need 9 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And again, notice I'm building it in rows of 5 so I can make that 10 frame, because I can see clearly that this is 9 because 1 less than 10 equals 9. So if I feel like I forget what number I'm working with, I can just look to help me remember instead of recounting. And hopefully the Montessori community will not be mad at me for building them in a little bit different way. All right, so now it's time to start, and we always start with our units. So we can start with 9 minus 6. 6 is less than 9, so we can take 6 away. I'm gonna take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we have 1, 2, 3. 9 minus 6 equals 3. Okay. Next, our next place value is the tens place. We have 2 tens and we need to subtract 3. But we don't have enough tens to take away 3. So I'm gonna borrow from the hundreds. 10 tens equals 100. So if I trade this in, I can trade it in for 10 blue 10 squares because 10 tens equals 100. So I'm gonna put that back and I'm gonna get my 10, kind of like if you traded in a $100 bill, 10 and got 10 $1 bills. 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 10 and got $10 bills in its place. You still have the same amount of money, but it's just in a different way. Or if you had a $10 bill and you wanted singles so you could go to the arcade and play the games, you might trade it in for 10 $1 bills. You still have the same amount of money, but it's just shown in a different way. Okay, so now I have my 10 frame plus 2 more, so I know that that's 12 without having to count. So I'm going to do it on the paper to show what we did. We had 500s, and we borrowed 1. So now we can see clearly that we only have 4 left. So I'm going to note that on my paper so I don't forget that I used one of those hundreds. And we added 10 to our tens place. So instead of 2, we have 12. Okay, now we can take away 3. 1, 2, 3. And we can see clearly that 1 less than 10 is 9. Or we could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 12 minus 3 equals 9. And then lastly, we will subtract from our hundreds place. Now notice that we are working with 4 hundreds, not 5, because we used 1. So we have 4 minus 1. 4 minus 1 equals 3. So our answer is 393. There we go. Okay, we're going to do 2 more that are a little bit more challenging because you will see these in the future and they throw off people all the time. Our next one is 702 minus 97. So first I'm going to build my number. 702. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 hundreds. Notice that we have a 0 in the tens place, so I'm not going to put out any blue stamps. I'm going to leave space though. And we have 2 units, so we'll put out our 2 units. So we have 702. And with the actual stamp game, we could use a placeholder. However, we are doing quarantine math, so we will just leave a space for that tens place. Okay, so starting with units, we have 2, and it says that we need to subtract 7, but we can't. So we know we need to borrow, and we should borrow from the tens place, but there's nothing in the tens place to borrow from. Oh no, what are we going to do? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna walk next door to the tens place and we're gonna knock and say, "Excuse me, do you have any sugar I can borrow?" And they're gonna say, "No, I'm sorry, I'm all out of sugar, but my friend next door has some. I'll go borrow from them." And so first the 10 has to borrow, okay? So we're gonna do a double borrow. We're gonna borrow 100 and have 6 left. So I'm gonna take 100, but I'm not gonna trade it in for 100 units. I'm gonna trade it in for 10 tens. Okay, so now we have 6 hundreds and we have 10 tens. Now our units place can borrow, right? So we're gonna borrow 110. So now we have 9. So I'm gonna do another cross out to remind myself that now I have 9. And I'm gonna get 10 more units because 10 tens equal, or 110 equals 10 units. And in my 10 frame, I can see clearly that I have 10 and I have 2 more, so I have 12. So I'm gonna make a note of that for myself on my paper. Okay. Now we can start subtracting. So we have to take away 7 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have 5 left. 12 minus 7 equals 5. So I'm going to write that down in my difference for my units place. Remember, the answer in a subtraction problem is called the difference. Now we have 9 tens, and we've got to subtract 9. So that's all of them. I'm going to take all 9 away. How many do we have now? 0. Now this is in our tens place, so we do have to write that 0. Okay, and remember in our hundreds place, this is an imaginary 0 right there. So we have 6 minus 0, which still equals 6. So our answer is 605. 605. Okay, now that we've used the stamp game to solve 3 of these problems, I'm going to do the last one, just talking through and doing it abstractly in my head without the stamps to help us. We have 845 minus 257. Starting with units, we need to subtract 7. But 5 is less than 7, so I can't subtract. I'm going to borrow a 10 from the tens place. Now we have 3 tens left, and we have 5 units plus 10 more units gives us 15 units. So 15 minus 7. Now we have to calculate it in our head. And we can do that, we can count backwards. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Okay, moving on to the tens place. Now we have 3 tens minus 5. But oh no, 3 is less than 5, so we can't subtract without borrowing from the hundreds place. I know that 100 equals 10 tens, so I'm going to borrow 100, and now I only have 7 hundreds, but I have 13 tens, because 3 plus 10 is 13. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Okay, and finally, we can subtract our hundreds. Now, if I wouldn't have written the 7 over here, I might have forgotten that I borrowed 1, and I might subtract 2 from 8. But because I made myself the note, I remember I borrowed 100, so now I only have 7 hundreds. So 7 minus 2 equals 5. So our difference is 588.